In the last leg of the Hitachi Social Innovation Forum 2017, we focus on the role of smart transportation in transforming Indian cities into smart cities. The cutting-edge forum was attended by luminaries from the industry who discussed and deliberated on how technology can be deployed to make intra-city travel fast, efficient and seamless. We bring you an insightful interview with Mangal Dev, Director and Head, Hitachi Railway Systems BU, India and South Asia region.
We are here on the platform of Hitachi Social Innovation. And when we talk about social innovation, a lot of it comes in the backdrop of the kind of policies that are laid out and how enabling are those policies. What was your reaction to the railway budget? Because it was the first time when it was merged with the union budget. Did you think there were enough enablers there for us as a country, for cities to really move forward?
The first thing that has happened, as you said, the railway budget is not presented as a separate budget, but part of the union budget. But some of the key things that we saw in the budget is mainly related to the Indian Railways upgradation. They want to expand their network and improve the throughput by around 10% in the next year. So a lot of allocation has been put in on safety, where Hitachi plays a very critical role, modernization of railways, and also creating a one platform for IT called IR, One ICT, and use big data analytics to solve some of the demand and supply issues that the passengers face, that they face in the operations of the trains, whether they are passenger trains or the freight trains through their services.
If you were to rate this railway budget, a lot of us might have actually skipped over it because we were so concerned with the union budget. What was the rating that you'd give it?
I would say when you go in the details of the budget, the railways have drawn up a immediate, medium-term and a long-term plan. And all the areas that they have covered, all the areas, the vectors of improvement that they have looked at, I think I would rate them almost a 10 out of 10.
Ouch. Okay, that's quite a hands up. And first I want to understand a little bit about Hitachi. For many of us here in India, Hitachi perhaps is synonymous with air conditioners, a lot of consumer durables. But, it is actually a company which is much, much beyond that. You've got so many other verticals. Railways is clearly an important segment. Take us through really the genesis of what is the kind of company that Hitachi is and, illuminate us about the kind of endeavors.
So Hitachi railway system story, of course, began in Japan, and now it has become a global story. From Japan, after setting up the record-breaking high-speed Shinkansen network, it has moved to UK, where we have established the high speed in UK and also transforming the UK railways. And very recently, we created almost one of the top 4 positions in the global sector by acquisition of 2 companies from Italy, the Ansaldo Breda and the Ansaldo STS. By putting all these together, I can proudly say that Hitachi provides end-to-end technologies, not only in the infrastructure, but also incorporate IT with the infrastructure to take to the future of railways. The future is in the IoT.
Okay. So clearly Hitachi is there as one of the top-end players. Now, connect it for us, because one of the key themes, again, harking back to the budget, was the multimodal transport system. What exactly do you mean by a multimodal transport system, and what kind of a role does Hitachi play in that?
I will explain you this with an example. A multimode transport system is a system which caters to different kind of requirements of the passengers, whether it's a low capacity, medium capacity, or high capacity system, ranging from a monorail to a tram system to a light metro to a complete full-scale metro. So when you incorporate all these modes of transport and also connect them with the national railway and the other peripheral railway system, what I call the secondary and the tertiary system, we create an integrated multimodal transport system. The big thing that joins all these multimodal transport system is that a passenger can move from point A to point B seamlessly. He need not buy multiple tickets. He has to just buy one ticket and then travel from point A to point B. And he knows the path of his travel, which mode he will take at what point through the information that is made available to him, online and real time. That is the vision, and that is what the true multimodal system is, to make sure there is a seamless travel. So Hitachi has been doing it in Japan, and Hitachi has been doing elsewhere in the globe, and we want to bring this to India.
Okay, so I think that's as great a good note as any to take a small break and invite the rest of our panel on board.
Next on the agenda was a session on smart transportation, key to transforming Indian cities into smart cities. Among other things, the speakers discussed the merits of developing the metro rail and the light metro rail as mass rapid transit system.
So let me start off with somebody who has clearly been part of one of the biggest success stories that all of us have been fortunate to see here in Delhi, and that's the Delhi Metro Corporation. Ever since then, we've seen that project really continuing to build pace, build up systems, build up scale, and one would say continue with the success story. What, according to you, Mr. Kumar, really was the mindset behind the Delhi Metro?
The first thing Mr. Sridharan said, we are to review DPR, and our Japanese consultant are there. We need to build a modern metro, review in such a manner that the type of rolling stock, signaling, track, and traction is such that we have a technology, and we are fortunate that we are coming in a green field. Others have to change technology when it is due for replacement. But we can have the best of all, and that will help us. But we should not. We should set a mission. And mission was that it should be affordable, it should serve the public, and it should not cause for long maintenance requirements like Indian Railways. Then a few commandments, how we'll work like. This was the mission set. This should be affordable, this should be modern, and this should be for the benefit of the public.
Absolutely. And that brings me actually to somebody who's at the other end of the spectrum. Let me bring in Brijesh Dixit, who's the Managing Director of Nagpur Metro Rail Corporation. As we talk about transport systems, when you hear from, really the founding team of DMRC, how differently are you approaching it as opposed to, say, the constraints that the DMRC faced in 1998?
The model is basically the same as Delhi Metro. And we have learned a lot, of course, from Delhi Metro. I know Mr. Sridharan personally. And that was the new idea when it came in 95 or 98. And as he's rightly telling that there were still doubts, even when the project started. But now there is no doubt left. So many projects have already been implemented.
So what's your long-term vision? They had a 10-year vision. When you're building the metro today, what's your long-term vision?
Yeah, one thing you very rightly pointed out, that intermodal connectivity. So now that is in place right now in Nagpur. When we are making metro, we are providing intermodal connectivity right from the beginning. So these are the things which we are doing differently. Secondly, in the field of energy, we are installing our solar panels right in the beginning over the rooftops of the stations. Mm-hmm. And that is how we will meet 65% requirement of the metro.
But your cornerstone is still the same as what the DMRC is, which is affordable and to serve the public.
Yes, of course. It has to be. In India, it has to be affordable. It has to be the world-class and efficient. At the same time, it has to be affordable.
So you've done an accurate market mapping of the kind of ridership you're expecting?
Yeah, of course. All the projects start with that. We have
Something perhaps that, Satish Kumar, you weren't given the luxury of doing, the kind of ridership that you were expecting for the DMRC.
Well, we never thought the metro could be the engine of growth for employment and for the travel. Today, 30 lakh people travel an average distance of 17 kilometers, 50 million passenger kilometers per day. And this was not there. I still remember the day in 2003 when we opened the section from Kashmiri Gate to Central Secretariat, and I found ladies with burqas coming to Chawdi Bazaar in 7 rupees, going to the India Gate and enjoying with the family, which they had never thought of.
Absolutely. So metro, in fact, has been an agent of social transformation. In India, you have to advise the client particular to really the kind of market he's serving.
India actually is a very unique country. The number of people that we have, and one of the key factor is the social factor is also very important. So a real cut and paste, a solution that is successful elsewhere may not be a solution which will be successful in India. So we have to innovate.
Hitachi Social Innovation Forum 2017 brought together industry leaders and experts to discuss how smart transportation is key to transforming Indian cities into smart cities.
Prashant, when we talk about metro, as an end user, I think of a carriage that takes me from point A to point B. But actually, it's much more than that. Today, as cities are going about planning their modes of transport, how critical is it that they choose the right technology when they go ahead?
You see, when a city has to plan for a metro system or any type of transport system, the basic underlying factors are like how much traffic it has to carry. There are not written rules, but practical or thumb rules that up to some number of people, we call it passengers hours per direction of traffic. So you can either go for a monorail, first to start with a bus system, then a tram system, and a monorail. Then you go to a LRT, okay, then you go to a MRT, what like Delhi or Nagpur Metro is having. Normally it is said that if you have a figure of around 30,000 or more than 30,000, you go for a MRT. As you are aware, most of the cities in India, the major cities, will obviously have to go for MRT. So
Right.
all these decisions have to be taken.
In fact, I'm glad you brought that up because every day I see an article in the newspaper, and Mangal, let me bring you in. It says, considering monorail for Delhi, also considering tramways for Delhi. I'm just bringing up the example of Delhi, Bangalore, each city. Would you say that you basically need to extrapolate and bring in that model here into India, or in India you have to advise the client particular to really the kind of market he's serving?
India actually is a very unique country. The number of people that we have, and one of the key factor is the social factor is also very important, both in terms of affordability and also the level of environment or the pollution that you have in a city. So I think India has its own challenge. So a real cut and paste, a solution that is successful elsewhere may not be a solution which will be successful in India. So we have to innovate.
But now I'm going to ask the bottom line, and somebody who's been... Yes, go ahead.
You may need all of them in a city. Because one will be the mainstream system, the others will be the feeders.
Right.
You may need a light
like
metro.
we have in Gurgaon, you have the rapid
Gurgaon,
metro, and you
best
have the main
example.
metro.
Yeah, certainly. So
May
you
I
need all
add
of
one
them
more thing?
in
Yes.
a very cohesive
Yes.
manner.
Yeah, absolutely.
May I
Please.
add more? Reliability of functioning and punctuality and regularity. I'm giving an example. If the train does not fail, track does not fail, power supply does not fail, signaling does not fail, the train has to be on time. And this is the reason why Delhi Metro has been, and other metros are now, maintaining punctuality of 99.5% and above because of the technology, because of the innovation.
So clearly, these are very important deciding factors when choosing their technology. But all this comes at a very high price. Let me bring in somebody who analyzes the market, especially in the current environment. You know, when you see state governments and when you see that perhaps commercial considerations, issues like return on investment, are really not top of the mind when you're running a public service like this. How do you attract investors?
That's a very good question, Paramita. But I must tell you one thing, that I think now the stage is set for foreign investor or even Indian investor to come in, right? The reason I say stage is set because there is a clear mindset change. As I was flying from Bombay this morning, I was reading Economic Times, and there was a very interesting article in that. This was a manifesto or likely manifesto of one of the leading political party for a municipal election, not even a state or central election, a municipal election. And one of the main points in that manifesto was integrated transportation system. So you can imagine this is really at the top of the mind of the political leadership, which means the stage is clearly set.
So the political will is there, but then state governments will just go into steadily higher deficits. Can we sustain that?
Very, very, very good question. We very much early in the evolution of the infrastructure in India realized that we need to look at the different kind of financing. And that's how we went to PPP model, private-public partnership. And it was a very successful model to start with initially.
Okay, just hold that thought, because we want to take a quick poll from the audience. Enough of listening to us. We want to hear from you, and I'm going to toss it across to my colleague Sumit, who's right there. There he is. He's usually the tallest, isn't he? There he is. Okay.
Thank you, Paramita, for that. Thank you, gentlemen. Like Paramita just said, this is the time for you guys in the audience. We need to hear from you. There's been a lot of one-way views and opinions coming. It's time to let's hear from us here in the audience. And you will have your first question coming up right now. And here it is. So if you have it on your phone, it says, do you believe that the government is taking adequate steps towards integration of various modes of public transportation to improve the overall efficiency?
Press A if you think yes, and press B if you think no. 54.84% have said yes, while 45.16% have said no. On that note, over to you, Paramita.
It's a wafer-thin margin. Despite whatever is happening, the public out there feels that the government is doing enough, but it's not an overwhelming majority. Only 54% believe that. Let me come to you here, Brijesh. How do you ensure the common man is able to get the benefits?
That reason we are calling Nagpur Metro as Mazi Metro, Mary Metro, so that we convey a message to the every user that it is meant precisely for him or her.
And gentlemen, as we come towards the conclusion of this discussion, we have the new metro policy coming up. It's being drafted. The government wants your viewpoints. And clearly, there are some fundamental ways in which business is done has to be changed. What needs to change, especially in the new metro policy?
So since you said you're concluding this, so let me make one or two concluding remarks. First, and very important, the financing is not an issue. We are in Delhi.
Aren't these very expensive financing projects?
I mean, I just want to give you one last sentence, one example of the question came up is that why there is a delay in the project. And I want to quote one of my friends who is a big developer. I don't want to quote his name, but he said, look, if I have a right of way, I get everything on the paper. But if there is a pawn shop on the way, I have no right to remove. It takes years together for me to remove a pawn shop. How do you implement a project? That's where the viability is compromised.
Satish Kumar, what do you think the way the state governments, the way the central government is working, what needs to fundamentally change?
Economy grows, the travel grows, and one has to plan much beyond that. If you have to be in advance, like Hong Kong, they plan in advance. Fundamental thing what we took up in Delhi, and I would say, Mr. Sridharan, and say, if Indians can excel outside and technology is available, why not in India?
Okay, great. British Dixit, at Nagpur Metro, as you go back, how would you like to revisit the future and the kind of planning that you're doing?
Since we have started only 2 years back, that occasion has not come.
Mm-hmm.
And
when does the
we have been doing the best every day, and therefore the way.
So you think you're well planned. You will not see a rush, a capacity constraint.
Let me just comment on Delhi. Delhi metro is continuously expanding. All these crowds which you are seeing will die
So
down.
Nagpur metro will not expand further beyond the...
It will, because, when you start a metro, you start with radials. From Central Point to Connaught Place, your radials are going out. Now, then you are making rings. So once this network is complete, your crowds will go down. Delhi metro will not be that much crowded when the expansion is complete.
So at least our next generation will have an easier time.
Looks
Definitely.
like, yeah.
Okay.
So provided
great.
we execute faster.
Okay. Mangal Dev, what's the biggest challenge that you face as you provide solutions? What would you like to see being changed?
One of the things that we would like to see is today, every city, every corridor, they start with one corridor or two corridor. So there is a special purpose vehicle which is, enabling that project. What we like to see is that all these cities in one state, they can come together and pool up their requirements and also the control of execution of these projects. I think it will accelerate not only planning, not only getting the funding, not only getting a very affordable prices from the infrastructure providers.
Prashant Rao, final comments, especially in terms of the future of technology, whether it's my experience as a consumer, as a woman traveler, what can I expect in the next decade or so?
You see, the metros have now expertise, apart from the railway system, in other IT systems are also, which may be very useful for cities. Like I'll give you example of city surveillance, I'll give you example of radio networks. All metros are, as a mandatory requirements, have them. So my suggestion would be that for smaller cities, the same systems can be expanded for the city also.
Thank you so much for being a great audience. Thank you, panelists, for giving us some great insights.